you're really cute. I put that license away. I thought, I'm never showing this thing again.
So what happened? You went from 5'2" at 16 to what?
Yeah, my senior year, I probably grew 7, 8 inches, had mononucleosis. I couldn't, everything was stretched out, and I continued to.
For decades, Hollywood painted Kevin Costner as the symbol of quiet integrity, a man untouched by scandal, untouched by chaos. But today, that image shatters, because after years of silence, after years of carrying stories he never wanted to speak aloud, Costner has finally revealed the 9 actors he believes are not just difficult, but truly dangerous. Actors he trusted, actors who were supposed to stand beside him, actors who, according to him, held darkness behind their smiles and brought chaos into every room they entered. Some of these names will shock you, some will infuriate you, and some will make you question everything you thought you knew about Hollywood's greatest legends. But we begin with the one man Kevin Costner spent his entire career avoiding, Marlon Brando, the idol he admired on screen yet feared in real life. Kevin Costner didn't avoid a Marlon Brando because of jealousy. He avoided him because of the destruction Brando carried like a storm cloud wherever he went. In the mid-1980s, when Brando's team quietly suggested him for The Untouchables, producers remembered a strange moment. Costner backed away immediately, not out of disrespect, but out of awareness. Because long before Costner's rise, Hollywood crews whispered about Brando the way sailors whispered about unpredictable seas. On Apocalypse Now, Brando didn't just arrive overweight. He arrived unprepared, uncompromising, and unapologetic. He rejected costumes. He demanded the entire ending be rewritten for him. He threw pages of a script into a river and declared, "I won't say a single line I haven't approved." Directors bent to him. Studios tolerated him. Crew members suffered because of him. And years later, on the score, Brando humiliated director Frank Oz by calling him Miss Piggy in front of the entire cast, refusing to take a direction unless someone else delivered it for him. That was the moment Costner is said to have privately whispered, "That energy ruins everything around it." He admired Brando's talent, but he refused to let that chaos anywhere near his work, his crew, or his reputation. Hollywood forgave Brando endlessly, but Kevin Costner stayed far, far away. Madonna is the only person on this list who didn't need a movie set, a long collaboration, or a complicated history to land on Kevin Costner's bad side. She did it in under 30 seconds. Their encounter happened backstage during her 1990 Blonde Ambition tour, a moment that should have been simple, respectful, and forgettable. Costner walked in not as a superstar, not as an equal, but as a genuine fan wanting to acknowledge her work. He smiled, nodded politely, and offered a harmless compliment. "Your show was neat." A gentle, sincere phrase, but to Madonna, wrapped in her own performance persona, it became ammunition. The moment Costner stepped out of the room, she turned to the documentary cameras filming Truth or Dare. She shoved 2 fingers into her mouth, mimicking a gag. Then she rolled her eyes dramatically and mocked, "Anyone who says my show is neat has to go." The crew laughed, the cameras kept rolling, and that clip later played in the theaters around the world, transforming a moment of kindness into a public humiliation. Costner never exploded. He didn't fire back, didn't insult her, didn't play her game. That wasn't who he was. But 1 year later, when Barbara Walters asked him about the incident on national television, he delivered a painfully controlled answer. Just 7 words. "I don't care much for her." For a man who almost never criticizes anyone publicly, that single sentence hit like a hammer. It was quiet, dignified condemnation, the kind that says far more than shouting ever could. Madonna never apologized publicly, and Kevin Costner never forgot the moment he learned that even kindness can be twisted into ridicule in Hollywood. Bruce Willis and Kevin Costner never even had to share a film set for tension to form between them. Costner heard enough long before any studio tried pairing them together. And what he heard was enough to draw a permanent line in the sand. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, stories about Willis spread through Hollywood like wildfire. Crew members, directors, assistants, people who rarely spoke badly about anyone, described the same pattern: explosive temper, constant clashes, a set that felt like walking on broken glass. On the series Moonlighting, Willis's arguments with Sybil Shepherd became legendary. Entire shooting days stalled because he didn't like a lighting setup, or a line delivery, or simply didn't feel respected enough. Then came the director's testimonies, each one darker than the last. Kevin Smith called working with Willis soul-crushing. Producers complained he refused to shoot a standard coverage. Assistants claimed he'd leave mid-scene if something irritated him. But the story that sealed Costner's opinion came years later in 2010. A mutual colleague described a moment when Willis, during a disagreement, smashed a prop desk to pieces, then bragged afterward, "They know they can't fire me." To Costner, a man who believes a film set should be a place of respect, not intimidation, that was unforgivable. His reaction was blunt, unfiltered, and revealing. There's no room for people who destroy sets just to prove a point. Hollywood tried several times to pair the two men together. The studios wanted two icons in the same frame, a guaranteed blockbuster. But Costner declined every offer, not because he feared Willis, not because he doubted his talent, but because in his eyes, he refused to step into a hurricane just to watch everything he built be torn apart by someone else's temper. To him, Bruce Willis wasn't just difficult, he was danger disguised as confidence. If Kevin Costner represents discipline, restraint, and quiet professionalism, Alec Baldwin represents the exact opposite. A man whose storms seem to follow him wherever he goes. And that contrast is precisely where Costner's distrust began. Long before the Rust tragedy, long before Baldwin became a permanent fixture in tabloid headlines, Costner witnessed a pattern that he believed revealed something deeply unsettling about Baldwin's character. The moment that first shook him happened in 2007, when the world heard Baldwin's now infamous voicemail, the one where he unleashed a furious tirade at his 11-year-old daughter. A moment so visceral, so raw, so cruel, that even battle-worn Hollywood executives went silent. When a colleague mentioned the recording to Costner, he asked just one question: how does a man talk that way to his own child? It wasn't anger, it was disbelief, the kind that comes from seeing a line crossed that should never be touched. But that voicemail was only the beginning. Then came the confrontations with photographers outside his Manhattan apartment, the screaming matches with reporters, the tension that followed him onto the set of 30 Rock, where crew members privately warned newcomers, just stay out of Baldwin's way. When Costner heard that sentence for the first time, it infuriated him. To him, a film set should feel like a workplace, a place of teamwork, collaboration, and trust, not a minefield where people tiptoe around one man's unpredictable temper. Then in 2018 came the final straw, Baldwin's arrest after a violent confrontation over a parking space in Greenwich Village. A police report that painted a picture Costner could no longer ignore. That night, after reading the details, Costner said what he had avoided saying for years. Some men don't deserve the second chances they keep getting. It wasn't said out of hatred, it was said out of exhaustion, from watching someone repeatedly create chaos, hurt others, and be forgiven again and again. To Kevin Costner, Alec Baldwin represented something dangerous, a man who treated anger like a weapon and the world like a battlefield. Kevin Costner never expected Robert Duvall to end up on this list. Not him. Not the man Costner admired for years, long before Open Range ever existed. Their partnership was supposed to be a dream. Two respected actors working side by side, bringing authenticity to a Western that meant the world to Costner. But what unfolded shocked him more deeply than any clash with Madonna, Baldwin, or Willis. Because this time, the conflict came from someone he trusted. It all began before cameras even rolled inside a Los Angeles production office. When discussions about billing surfaced, Duvall made a demand so blunt, so immovable, that it sent ripples through the room. He refused to be listed second on the poster, refused to negotiate, refused to even discuss the idea. Crew members still recalled the tense meeting, the moment Duvall snapped, "I don't follow anybody." Then he walked out, leaving silence behind him. Costner was stunned, not angry, not offended, just stunned. Because the man he idolized had just shown a side of himself that Costner didn't know existed, and the trouble only escalated once filming began in New Mexico. During a key rehearsal, Costner, as the director, made a small adjustment to the camera movement, a simple professional note. Duvall didn't just reject it, he raised his voice in front of the entire crew, insisting he knew better, accusing Costner of over-directing, challenging his authority on his own set. For Costner, a man who leads with respect, it was a knife to the heart. Yet he didn't react, he didn't explode, he didn't fight back. That night, though, he confided quietly to a producer, "He's the most stubborn man I've ever directed." On a screen, their chemistry looked flawless. But behind the camera, something precious broke. They finished the film professionally, but the friendship, the admiration, the trust never fully recovered. Costner didn't shut him out of spite. He simply couldn't risk working again with someone who refused to be guided, even for the sake of the project. To Costner, Robert Duvall became the painful reminder that even your heroes can disappoint you. The conflict between Kevin Costner and Oliver Stone was never about ego. It wasn't about a screen time, billing, or personality. It was about something far heavier, far more personal: truth, on the price of bending it. When Costner signed on to JFK in 1991, he believed he was entering a project grounded in respect for history, a film that would handle a national tragedy with the weight it deserved. But almost immediately, he realized Oliver Stone had a different mission. During an early script review inside Stone's New Orleans production office, Costner questioned a scene that presented speculation as fact. Stone didn't hesitate, didn't pause, didn't soften. He paced the room, turned sharply, and declared, "The audience doesn't want facts, they want truth." To Costner, those words were a warning, because in Stone's hands, truth didn't mean accuracy. It meant shaping history until it fit his theory, pushing narrative over evidence, From that moment on, the set of JFK became a battleground of ideals. Costner pushed for documentation. Stone pushed harder for conspiracy. Some mornings, the tension was so thick that the assistant director delayed call time because the two men were locked in arguments powerful enough to shake walls. Crew members recall one particular day when a Stone slammed a binder onto a table and snapped, "History is a narrative. I'm shaping it." Costner said nothing in response. He simply stared at him, not with anger, but with a quiet, devastated disappointment, because this wasn't just a film to him, it was a responsibility. He fulfilled the project with professionalism. He supported it publicly, but privately he walked away deeply unsettled, convinced that Oliver Stone was a rare kind of filmmaker, one willing to twist reality if it meant winning the argument. Their mutual respect survived, but the bond between them, the trust, the sense of shared purpose, never returned. Now that the dust has settled, now that the stories have been dragged out from the shadows where Kevin Costner kept them for years, one question remains. Were these actors truly evil, or was Hollywood itself a machine that rewards chaos, protects power, and punishes anyone who speaks against it? Costner never used the word evil lightly. He never exposed these stories to tear people down or stir cheap drama. He spoke because each experience left a scar, a reminder that fame often hides fractures beneath its glow. Marlon Brando taught him that genius without discipline becomes destruction. Madonna taught him how mockery can masquerade as confidence. Bruce Willis showed him the cost of unchecked anger on a set meant for collaboration. Alec Baldwin revealed the darkness that can erupt when power meets lack of control. Robert Duvall reminded him that even your idols can betray your expectations. Oliver Stone proved that the most true storytellers are those who bend truth to fit their beliefs. Each name on Costner's list is a mirror, reflecting not only their flaws, but Hollywood's willingness to look away as long as the cameras keep rolling. For decades, fans saw only the polished interviews, the red carpets, the applause. But behind those bright lights were moments Costner could never forget. Moments that reshaped the way he understood the industry. Moments that made him guard his integrity like a shield. And today, by speaking out, he invites us to see the truth he carried, that even the most celebrated stars can cast the darkest shadows, that character matters more than talent, that fame does not equal goodness, and that behind every Hollywood legend, there may be a story the world was never meant to hear. So now the question is yours. Do you believe these actors were misunderstood? Or did Hollywood hide something far more disturbing beneath its golden surface? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below, and if you want more deep, unfiltered stories from inside the world of fame, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Because the truth, especially in Hollywood, is never what it seems.